All right, Hilary, recording. So we are on the home page of the health course. So you've already done everything that we need to do for this course. For the home page, I'm just going to go and focus in on the assignments here. So I am going to click on course assignments. Okay, so the final grade for the person, family, and community-centered practice is made up of several components. So they have weekly discussion posts. Then they have some work that they have to complete out of their mandatory textbook, which is the cultural competency textbook. And that includes this HPSACC questionnaire and their cultural competency assignment. So the second and third. They have 3 quizzes throughout the semester. They have to write a social history, and then they have an age-friendly London project. So let's go through each of these one by one. So the first one is discussion posts. Similarly to mental health, I wanted something that was kind of weekly for students, given the virtual model, to help students in kind of keeping up with the work and to help me in tracking if students were keeping up and reading all of the content throughout the semester. So for mental health, the quizzes served that purpose. They helped me to kind of track student progress. For this course, the discussion posts serve that purpose. So every week, students will come onto our FOL page, they'll find their weekly module, they'll click on it, and they'll read all of the information that I've written out to them. And at the very bottom of every module, there is a question posed to them. The questions tend to start off kind of a bit more applied or concrete. And as the term progresses, they become a little bit more abstract or use a bit more critical thinking. So a bit harder as the term progresses. So they have discussion posts every week when they don't have a quiz. There's 3 quizzes over the term, so they don't have discussion posts those weeks, but anytime they don't have a quiz, they have a discussion post that they need to respond to. So this is just a quick description for the students to read to better understand the expectations of their posts. I really stress to students that I'm looking for a high level of critical thinking and reflective practice. I do not want them to just tell me what I just told them in the class. Do not repeat course content back to me. Go beyond the course content. Answer the question and then integrate your own experiences in. A lot of them have experiences working in healthcare in their home countries. Have you experienced something like this in your past work life? Did you experience something like this in any past academic programs? Are one of your other courses within the GIP program talking about something similar? So I really look for some strong reflective practices, integrating information from other sources, and good critical thinking in their response. And I've written this out as well. And I'm pretty sure on the questions, I actually include that in every single question as well. The responses should be about a paragraph long, 5 to 7 sentences. That's to discourage students from answering with one line. So every week you'll find a discussion question posted to the students and they're asked to respond to it. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to go back to content. And let's just select week 4. And I'm just going to view week 4 here. So you'll see week 4, the students are coming onto FOL diligently, opening up this module, excited to read it. So we have all of the information that I've written out for them about person-centered actions. So they're reading all of this information. And then at the very bottom, there's always a section that says discussion post, and they'll see what their discussion question is for the week. So for this particular one, we had discussed person-centered actions. So for this question, they're going to read this little case scenario and they'll identify which person-centered actions they see in this case scenario. So the students will be able to click on this link. It'll bring them over to the discussion forum and they can create a reply. And then I'll just show you what it looks like on your end. So we're going to click on communications and then we'll click on discussions. So you'll see that I have created all of the discussion forums for every single week. Week 1 question. Oh, I'll get to that in a second. Week 2's question, week 4's question, because they had a quiz week 3, 5, 6, 7, skip 8 because they have a quiz, week 9, week 10, and so on. So all of the forums have been created. Every week, the students will come on to the corresponding forum to answer the question. So on week 4, they'll find the corresponding forum, personhood promoting actions, and they'll answer the question from the case scenario, which personhood promoting actions do you recognize? And you'll see I included this in every single question to reinforce I'm looking for critical thinking, reflective practices. Don't just tell me what the course content said. I already know the course content. So the students will submit their responses here. So eventually you'll see under threads and posts, you'll see, 40 posts, hopefully. I don't have end dates for any of these forums. So I'll send you an email maybe about this. We have discussion questions for another class, and the professor for that class asked that the forum only be open for 1 week and then come down. And that was to help her to keep up with reading them every week. So if you'd like that to happen, I can set these dates. So the empathy forum is only open for a week. And then by the time you're running week 2's class, this forum comes down. So we can set that up if you'd like. In terms of grading the discussion posts, it can be a lot, especially with 40 students and weekly posts. What I do is I start off with a Microsoft Word document. Uh-oh, my computer is going to, the battery is going to run out. So let me just pause this recording and I will be right back. Okay, so to be very honest, when grading all of the discussion forums, I typically have the same group of 40. To be honest, I don't read all of them. I do try to keep up throughout the term. So I may set aside, a little bit of time every week to log on and read the posts that students have posted so far for the week. That often tends to be the more eager students who are really keeping on top of the work. They've already gone on and they've responded to the discussion question. Some students, of course, leave it all to the last minute. So my process for marking the discussion posts is at the very beginning of the term, I create a Microsoft Word document with a table with all of the students' names in it. Then every week throughout the term, I'll put aside, half an hour or something. I'll go on to these discussion forums, this page that we're looking at right now, and I'll read a couple of posts. And I'll read a couple of posts and usually I'll give like a quick reply. Hey, I really appreciated this quote that you said. I really like your line of thinking. What a great idea. And that just shows the students that I am around, even though it is a virtual model, I am present. So I try to set aside maybe half an hour every week to go on, look at whatever the weekly forum was, read a couple of replies or a couple of the student posts and give a reply. And as I read that post, I pull up my Microsoft Word document with all of the student names written, and I'll make a couple of little comments. If I'm reading it, I might as well start to grade it so I don't have to read it again. So let's say I read a student post and it's really well written. I'll reply to them and just say, hey, thank you for the reply. This is, very thoughtful and thorough. I really appreciate this specific quote that ties in really nicely with the content that we talked about last week. Thanks again. Post it to the student, and then I'll go to the Microsoft Word document and just say, like, very thoughtful, great critical thinking, great reflective practice, or whatever the kind of themes are that student met with that post, just so I'm already kind of tracking some of the student progress. Or even, all right, really great initiative, answers the questions right away. So I'm kind of keeping track throughout the semester of most of the student posts. The grade for the discussion post goes in at the final. So for you, it will be like in April. So then as we're getting towards April, that's when I'll start to try to read like a whole batch of student of student discussion posts and start to give them a grade. Typically, when I'm entering my final grades for this, it takes me a couple of days. And like I said earlier, I honestly don't read them all. I will go to what we just talked about with mental health. I'll go to the class list so that I can view the students one by one. And I'll start at the top. I'll view Mary Joy's progress. And I'll be able to see if she responded to all of the questions. So I'll look at the discussion posts. Anything that she's authored will be listed under here. So I'll be able to say, yep, she responded to weeks 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8. Like, yes, she did respond to all of them. So she's complete with all of her responses. And then typically I read like maybe 3 or 4 until I get like a pretty good idea of the quality of her posts. And I think you'll discover that, at least I have, that you do get enough information out of those few posts to give a pretty good mark. I used to read all of them, and I discovered that, really by reading about 3 or 4 of them, I get a pretty good idea of the quality of work that the student is providing in these weekly posts. So when I'm kind of making sure I have all of my final grades together for the discussion posts, I'll have my Microsoft Word document up, and I'll go in the discussion posts here and, I'll go on the class list here, view each individual student's discussion posts, check for completeness, read a couple of them to get a good idea of how the student is doing, and grade from there. Typically, when I give feedback for the discussion posts, I comment on all of my rubric information. So I'll say, good critical thinking, good reflective practice, no spelling and grammar errors, your posts were well organized. And then I try to make one personal connection. Usually there's like a few posts that are very like reflective and just lend themselves to more personal reflection. Like the empathy week 1 is where we talk about empathy in healthcare. That usually gives me some really quotable quotes. So I'll kind of figure out, which weeks I can pull on for some kind of personal connection. And I'll just say, like, thank you for sharing the story of your grandmother, or I appreciated what you said in week 7, or some kind of personal connection, just to show them that I have in fact read the work that they've done. So that's how I handle the discussion posts. I kind of try to keep up throughout the semester a little bit. And then when it comes to grading all of them for final, that's when I kind of systematically go through student by student, check for completeness, read about 3 or 4 of them to get an idea of the quality, then provide feedback around the rubric items, and one personal connection to one piece of content that they shared. That seems to be the way to manage it because it's quite a large piece of work to complete. So that's kind of my suggestion. Maybe you'll come up with a better idea. So that's the first, that's the discussion posts. And then, so there's a mandatory textbook in this class. I had actually recommended that you get a new copy because I understand that my copy is dated. I have to follow up on that today. The mandatory textbook is about cultural competency. Every student is expected to purchase it. And then they have bi-weekly cultural competency assignments that they complete in a group. But the very first thing that they're going to do with that textbook is this HPS-ACC questionnaire. So it's healthcare. Oops, this is not written right. It's the Healthcare Providers Assessment of Cultural Competency, or maybe, I don't know, those letters don't seem right. Health Professional Self-Assessment of Cultural Competency. Okay, maybe they are. So pages 13 to 17 of the textbook are an assessment, and it asks individuals to assess their current cultural competency skills, where they're at right now. This is due week 3. So I ask the students right away, get your textbook, finish this questionnaire, and then they have to write me a reflection paper. They don't submit their questionnaire to me. They submit their reflection paper to me. So they're going to complete the questionnaire, and then they'll write me a reflection paper that answers the following 3 questions. What were their areas of strength related to cultural competency? What are their areas where they need to grow related to cultural competency? And what is one concrete goal that they would like to set for themselves to develop their cultural competency in the future? So the papers are around 3 pages long, where they kind of tease out their strengths, their weaknesses, and one concrete goal. So that's kind of the very first assignment that they're going to submit to you. Sometimes students will ask, because it's a 4-page long questionnaire, and the questions are all under different topics. So students will ask, do I identify one single question where I scored well or where I scored poorly? Or do I identify a topic where I scored well or where I scored poorly? Either way, doesn't matter to me. The purpose of the assignment is for them to do a bit of reflection around their cultural competency. So whatever speaks to them. If they want to expand on one single question, great. If they'd rather expand on one single area, then that's great too. So it doesn't really matter to me how they choose to go about this assignment. So they'll submit those reflection papers to you on week 3 from that cultural competency textbook. And then for the remainder of the semester, they will use that textbook to complete cultural competency assignments in a group. So there's 5 of these total, and I think they're placed in, I don't know how many groups there are, maybe 6 groups. So how the textbook is laid out, they have that questionnaire at the beginning, and then the rest of the textbook is different case scenarios. So it will be a case scenario of a Muslim family, and then the next chapter will be of an Indigenous family, and so on, a Francophone family. So every chapter is kind of a different cultural background based on country of origin or race or so on. So different topics. So every other week, they are to read the case scenario. And there's also an accompanying DVD that shows actors who are, acting out this case scenario. And it gives the students some more information. One of the issues that we have with this assignment is students often don't have DVD players anymore. So typically, they're in groups of maybe 7 people or 6 people, I say, there's got to be hopefully one of you who has a DVD player. And usually they can identify at least one person who has a DVD player. And then last term, they set up like Zoom meetings to watch it on that person's DVD player together. So try to help them to kind of problem solve, like, okay, there's quite a few of you in this group. Someone's got to have a DVD player. Set up a group meeting so you can watch these together. So the students are asked to read the case scenario, watch the DVD, and then in the back of the textbook, there's an appendix. And the appendix has different sections based on the culture, based on different cultures. So chapter 1, let's say chapter 1's about a Muslim family. And then the first part of the appendix is information about Islam, or about Islam and how that relates to healthcare. So students are expected to read the case scenario, watch the DVD, and then read the appendix for the additional information. Once they've done that, then they're going to complete the cultural competency template. And I'm just going to try to, sorry. I'm just going to try to pull this up for you. Cultural competency. Sorry, I couldn't find it. Here we go. All right, so this is the template. So it's 5 questions. It follows this model that's in the textbook called Learn. In the textbook, there's several questions for each of the letters of the acronym, but I just picked one question for each to make it manageable for us to mark and for the students to complete. So first, the students have to identify, why is this case culturally complex? So I want to see good critical thinking. I want to see that they've integrated some information from the textbook into their response. Then I want them to have a discussion among themselves as a group to identify any cultural differences that they have with the family in the case scenario. Originally, I was looking for similarities, but I think it's really helpful for the students, especially given that we have such an international cohort, for them to kind of discuss their cultures with one another, to review the culture in the textbook, and to kind of say, hey, like, we do things this way and they do the things this way, and to kind of identify some differences. So I think that they get a lot of good information from hosting those discussions. For this section, I look for like very thorough responses and good reflective practices. I don't like if it's just a 1 or 2 sentence response that gets no marks. I'm looking to see if they've had like a really nice discussion with one another. So then they're going to read the culturally specific information in the appendix, and they're going to try to answer this question of, how does this additional information about this person's culture impact their decision making in the healthcare system? So we want to see that they're making clear connections between the information in the appendix, what we're seeing in this case scenario, and how that information in the appendix kind of informs the case scenario. And then the final 2 questions are, how are you going to use the information in the appendix to ensure that you have a culturally competent care plan? And how are you going to communicate with this patient moving forward based on the information that you now know? With these final 2 questions, the biggest issue that I find is that students sometimes will continue to say, okay, yes, I understand that it's against their culture to use this medication. How I'm going to care plan is I'm going to try to convince them to use the medication. So, you're just kind of, especially early on, really saying like, no, being culturally competent means accepting that this person does not want to use this medication, and accepting the fact that even though that's something we value, it's not something they value, and that they have the right to decline medication. So the question we're answering then is, how can we offer great quality of care within the bounds of this culture? So we're not using medication. What else are we going to do? So really early on, I find that I have to really hammer that point home to some of the groups to help them with their future assignments around like, forget the medication. It's not happening. Now you're a group of healthcare professionals. What can you do instead? This person is experiencing pain. What else can we do? So that's kind of how I approach or I mark these. It's a group assignment and it is due every other week. So let's get back to, is this it? So many things open. Yeah, so this is due every other week. So you'll see February 3rd, 17th, 10th, 24th, and 7th. So the final grade for this assignment, it's a little bit complicated. So the final grade for this assignment, students will, 70% of the students' final mark is going to be the grade that you have given them after grading all 5 of these cultural competency assignments. 30% of the grade, though, is going to be given to them by their peers, and their peers are going to grade them on how well they or how much they contributed to the assignments. And that's to try to help equality and fairness across this group work, because we always see some groups have people who do most of the work and others don't participate. So the people who do most of the work should get a better grade. So at the end of the term, there's a due date for the peer grades to be submitted. I'm just going to send Susan a little email asking her to walk you through this at the end of the term, because I don't know if you'll remember if we talk about it right now, and it's not important right now. So I'll just send Susan a little reminder to ask her to help you with this. So all you need to know this week is tell the students that 70% of their grade is going to be the grade that you give them based on the rubric, and 30% of their grade is going to be what their peers give them. So they need to participate, show initiative, show good time management, submit high quality of work if they want to earn 30% of their grade. So that is we've done the discussion posts, they're weekly. We've done the HPS ACC questionnaire. That's a reflection paper that they do right at the beginning of the term. We've done the cultural competency assignments. That's a group project that they submit bi-weekly, viewing a culturally complex case scenario and then answering those questions within the template. Then we have these 3 quizzes. So 3 quizzes throughout the term. They're non-cumulative. We do not have a final exam in this class. We just have these 3 non-cumulative quizzes. The quizzes are February 10th, March 17th, and April 21st, and they're comprised of 25% of the final grade. They're multiple choice, short answer, and case scenario questions. Once the students start the quiz, they have 90 minutes to complete it. After 90 minutes, they can't modify. So the weeks when the students have a quiz, they don't have a lecture and they don't have a discussion post. So they still have FOL content that they have to read. That week's FOL content is not on the quiz. It's on the following quiz. So they'll still have weekly FOL content that they have to read, but they don't have to respond to a discussion question and they don't have to attend a lecture. Instead, the time that they would have spent in lecture is going to be spent writing this quiz. So we can access the quizzes through evaluations and quizzes. And you'll see there's the 3 of them right here. I've set the due dates for the 3 of them. The multiple choice questions will be automatically graded and sent over to their grade book. So what you're going to do then is when all of the students have finished their quiz, you'll click on it. Oh, I knew I did this wrong. Sorry, I'm going to go back. I always do this wrong the first time. So all of the students have finished their quiz. The multiple choice questions have been automatically graded for you. So you're going to do the down arrow and grade. And then when you have students who have completed it, you'll see a list of all of the student names. So I'm just going to show you what this looks like in another course. So I'm going evaluations, quizzes. We have our first quiz. I'm going to grade it. So you can see that all of my users had completed the quiz. So now I can see all of their names. I want to grade it. So I'm going to click on attempt 1. So then we'll see all of the questions. We can just scroll down. These are all of the multiple choice questions, and they've been automatically graded by FOL. So even though it says graded by Kim Schlegel, it wasn't. It was graded by FOL. So that was an answer of 0 out of 1. All of these are automatically graded and sent over to their grade book. And I'm just going to scroll down. There's 20 multiple choice questions. So then the final 3 questions in this quiz are short answer questions. So for example, the first short answer question was, in class, we discussed 5 of the key themes that are associated with person-centered care. Please identify and explain 2 of the key themes associated with person-centered care. So this student got, oh, I guess she got full, oh yeah, she got full marks because she did identify and explain 2 of them. And then she also identified the remaining 3. So she got full marks in identifying and explaining those 2 pieces. The next question was, identify and briefly explain 5 of Kitwood's personhood promoting interactions. So the student will have to identify 5 of those personhood promoting interactions and explain why they're important. And then finally, identify and briefly describe 3 components that you might see in a social history, and then how might you share those results with your interdisciplinary team. So this is all directly from the course content. So we have a whole lecture on pieces that go into a social history and ways to share with your team. So we're just seeing if the student can remember some of those things. Oh, I guess I have 5. How many short answers do I have in this quiz? That's wild. 1, 2, 3. I guess I have more. Explain the concept of dignity at risk, and then some case scenario, and then 2 case scenarios. I didn't know that. So I must have had 3 short answers and 2 case scenarios for this quiz. So you can always go through and change it if you want to remove any of the questions. So this is a question around a man who says he doesn't want to move to long-term care. What is your role? So we're looking for the students to say, my role is to offer education, answers questions, but he gets to make the decision in the end. This student got 0 because she said, my role is to explain the benefits of long-term care and basically try to convince him to move. And then this was a case scenario where they have to identify some personhood promoting interactions within the case scenario. So that's what you'll do when you get the quiz results. When you get the quiz results, you'll wait for all the students to complete it, and then you'll just do the down arrow grade. You'll be able to see a list of all of the student names and all of their attempts, and then you can just go through and grade. And then as you enter the grade, so as I put like, okay, 4 out of 4, at the very bottom, I'll be able to say publish, and that means that the student's updated grade is going to their grade book. So they'll get a partial grade because the multiple choice will be graded for them already. And then when I go through and grade all the short answer questions, then it will be updated in their grade book. So that's the quiz tool. So there's the 3 non-cumulative quizzes throughout the term. I'm just going back to the course assignment section. Okay, so all of these take so much explanation. I'm glad I'm doing this video. Okay, so the first part of this course is around person and family-centered care. And then we really move into information about community services and helping to navigate through some of those community resources with older adults. The social history is the like concluding project for that person and family centered care, that first unit that we talk about in this course. So this is a little bit different from how I did it last year. So let me go through this. This year we have a partnership with Dorchester Terrace. So I'll send you the contact, unless I already did. I can't remember. So the purpose of this assignment is for students to write out basically a biography, the life story of an older adult, and then reflect upon, is that important to know? Why is it important to know? And so on. So there's two pieces to this assignment: writing a person's life story and then doing a reflection. So this is an individual assignment, but students are assigned to groups because they are assigned to residents of Dorchester Terrace. Dorchester Terrace has graciously partnered with us, and 6 of their residents have volunteered to tell their story to our students. So in partnership with Dorchester Terrace, they're placed in groups of 5 or 6, and they're assigned to a resident. So these are the residents. These are the students who are assigned to them. What I need to do is schedule some Zoom times and dates, and then I'm going to update it on this table so students will know what day, what time, and what the Zoom ID is to join in with this resident and to hear their life story. So students will attend the Zoom meeting. The resident will tell their life story. At the end, students will have the opportunity to ask additional questions about the person's life, knowing that they have to write out this biography about the individual. They may want to clarify certain points or ask different questions. At the conclusion, the students are expected to ask for any words of advice from the older adult, any wisdom or words of advice, specifically in the context of being future health or social care workers supporting an older adult, or just general words of advice for life. So I've included a few notes here. One is that we have these personhood tools that the students can use to help to help to guide what a social history might look like, all the different components that might go into that. However, their project is going to be a paragraph format. So they're not going to submit a template. They're going to submit like a paragraph format paper. 2 important things are that students are not to ask about private health information. It's just social history. And to note that residents are allowed to decline their questions, and they're allowed to stop the interview anytime. And if they do choose to answer a question, it's just the information that they are comfortable in sharing. So to just take into account sort of that consent and privacy piece. So we have it kind of step by step here. The first step is that the students will attend this Zoom session. The second step is that they'll write out the person's life story. The third step is that they'll write out a reflection about the experience. So did hearing the person's life story inspire you? In what ways? How did hearing this story challenge your prejudices or assumptions about older adults? What was the life advice that the older adult shared with you, and how are you going to incorporate that in your life? And as a health and social care worker, what are the benefits to knowing a person's life story? How would you integrate that information into their care plan? So there should be a reflection answering those 4 questions. So this is due at the end of February. So what I need to do for this project is I'll reach out to Emily and get those times and dates solidified, get the Zooms scheduled for everybody. And then I think they should just be able to attend and listen to the life story and then write this paper for you to grade. And then the final project, so we have these weekly discussion posts, we have the bi-weekly cultural competency assignments that they complete, we have some quizzes throughout the course. The social history concludes our first unit, which is the person and family-centered care. And then the Age-Friendly London project kind of concludes the second unit around community. So this is a project that Susan came up with in collaboration with Michelle Delamora, who organizes Age-Friendly London. So this is a group assignment. Students have been assigned to groups based on the 8 domains of age-friendly cities. So there's 8 domains of age-friendly cities. Students are assigned into groups and assigned one of the domains. The purpose of this assignment is to come up with one recommendation for the Age-Friendly London working group on what students think they should work on next. But to get there, there's a few steps that students have to do. So first, students have to research what has Age-Friendly done already so that they know what has been completed already and they're not making repeated recommendations. So the first step is researching the work done so far by Age-Friendly London within their assigned domain. Michelle is one of our guest speakers in the class. So if students are very prepared, then they can ask some really good questions to Michelle specifically about their domain. And I'll just go back, sorry, this is a video assignment. So the end product is the students are going to complete a group video recording where they answer all of these questions. So the first part of the video should be, this is what this working group has completed so far within our domain. The second step is to research best practices for older adults within their assigned domain. And I note here in this point, each of their domains are very broad. One domain could be housing and older adults. You're not going to be able to research best practices for housing and older adults. It's too broad. The group has to come up with a more specific research question or research focus. They have a research class that they're taking concurrently with this class, so that class should help them to develop that research focus. So for example, their specific question may be things like, what are the best practice recommendations to ensure community housing is accessible? So we're really focusing in on one specific research topic. So they're going to kind of figure out as a group one specific thing they want to research, and then they're going to find at least 2 academic articles. I think I said 2. Oh no, at least 3 evidence-based academic peer-reviewed articles to research that question. So again, they're trying to come up with a recommendation for age-friendly. To do so, first they need to know what's been done already, then they need to know what's best practice. So they're trying to gather this academic information about best practices. The final part of the video is going to be them making a concrete and specific recommendation to Age-Friendly London. So as a group, now that they know what's been done, now that they know what best practices look like, they'll say, we recommend to Age-Friendly London that they pursue this. So the video presentation is going to be a group format. Most groups do Zoom. So they'll schedule a Zoom meeting with themselves, and then they'll record the Zoom meeting and submit it to you. Every person in the group has to participate in the presentation. And you're also grading to make sure that it's well organized and that all of the members of the group use strong presentation skills. It's a 7 to 10 minute long video. So this is due April 7th, and it's the same as those cultural competency assignments. The final grade is going to be 70% of what you give them. So you're grading this video that they've submitted, you're grading it based on the rubric. And 70% of their final mark is going to be made up of the grade that you give them based on the rubric. 30% is going to be the grade that the peers have given them based on their contributions to the work. So that should kind of even out the students who worked really hard on it should get a higher grade. The students who didn't really attend meetings or participate should get a lower grade. And then there's just some additional information down here about age-friendly documents and such. Okay, so those are all of the assignments for health. So we have these weekly discussion posts. I try to kind of glance at a couple of them throughout the week, and then I set aside some time at the end of the term to kind of go student by student by student, read a couple of them, and grade. The reflection paper is kind of the first paper you'll get from them. It's a reflection on their current cultural competency skills, 2 or 3 pages long, and that's an individual assignment. The cultural competency assignments are group assignments. Students are assigned into groups already. They're expected to meet bi-weekly, read some information, watch a DVD, read the appendix in the back of the textbook, and answer those 5 questions about the culture that's discussed of the week. So you will receive those projects every other week. I think it's 6 groups. Quizzes, there's 3 throughout the term. They're made up of multiple choice, short answer questions, and case scenarios. The quizzes will be partially marked. You'll just have to go through after students have submitted them and grade the short answer pieces. Once you've graded the short answer pieces, you'll just click publish at the bottom, and then it will go into their grade book. When students have a quiz, they don't have a discussion post. The social history is a little bit more complicated because it's in partnership with Dorchester Terrace. Hopefully you won't have to do too much. I will get you in connection with Emily in case any issues come up over the term. Otherwise, students will be expected to attend the Zoom meeting, hear the life story, and then submit to you a written paper outlining the person's life and then doing some reflection around the experience. And finally, we have this Age-Friendly London project. Students are already assigned to groups. They're expected to do some research on what has been conducted so far with age friendliness, what is the best practices based on evidence-based academic information, and then generate 1 recommendation to Age-Friendly London. So those are the assignments. There's one thing I just wanted to show you, and that's how to view the groups. So like I said, students are already assigned to a couple of groups. I'm clicking on communications here, groups. So you'll see we have 3 categories of groups: the age-friendly assignments, the cultural competency assignments, and then that social history, that life story project. They've been assigned to groups just so they can be assigned to one of the 6 residents. So the age-friendly groups here, you'll see there's the 8 domains: communication, community support, employment, and there are 4 or 5 students assigned to every group. I'm just going to make a little change here. I don't want to confuse you, but I'm going to make some changes because I'm noticing that some of the groups have 5 and one of the groups has 3. That probably means that a student has dropped out already. So I'm just going to do this down arrow and click enroll users. And I'm just going to reweigh this. So I'm scrolling down and I'm going to scroll across and see who was it that had 3. Okay, this group has 3, this group has 5. So I'm going to take Daryl out of this group and I'm going to put Daryl into this group. So now we should be a little bit more equitable. And then I'll scroll to the bottom and click save. Okay. So for the age-friendly groups, now they're mostly groups of 4. Hey, another 3. Holy moly, I didn't catch that one. Okay, let me just do exactly the same thing that I just did. I'm going to enroll users. And I'm going to take Crystal out of housing. And I'm going to put Crystal into transportation. Okay, save. So you've had some students drop out already. 8 groups and every group has 4. So yeah, you're down to 32. That's interesting. Okay, so now we have some equitability between those groups. So these are the age-friendly assignments. In that course assignments page, I didn't write out which students are assigned to which groups for this reason, because it's probably going to change. So I just asked them, click on communications and groups, and they'll be able to view the group that they're assigned to. So now I'm going to just select cultural competency assignments. So these are those bi-weekly assignments. And we're looking pretty good, pretty equal number of members between these groups, 5 or 6. So if you want to see who is a part of which group, you can get to this page, communications groups. You'll select the category that you want to view. And then under members, if you click that there's 6 members in this group, their names will pop up. So you'll be able to see who's a part. And then with that social history assignment, I wonder if we've had some changes. Oh, it looks about the same. Okay. So this, I just used the groups tool to randomly assign people to residents. So that's the only reason that I used this. It's not a group assignment. I just used the groups tool so that I could randomize students to residents. So you'll see we have these residents' names and all of the members, and then I manually typed in the student names into the course assignment page so they could see their assignments. Okay, is that everything? So under content, that was all of the group assignments. The quizzes will be graded under the quiz tool. Any of the papers will be graded under the submission boxes. We have a few submission boxes here. So all of the cultural competency assignments, that social history that they'll write. The age-friendly video, they can upload the Zoom. Sometimes it doesn't work, so just tell them to upload or to email it to you. When you eventually do have submissions, you'll see numbers here and you can click on it. Or you can just click on the title of the assignment and it will bring up a list of the students and you'll be able to grade their papers. So I think that's everything for this course. Otherwise, it's pretty similar in layout to mental health. We have our weekly modules. They will see this part of it, this module 2. They'll see that and they'll have to read it. And then you'll just see this. This is your weekly PowerPoint that you download. Hopefully that's helpful. Just let me know if you have any questions at all. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, Hilary.